So I'm joined right now by maybe the bravest woman in New York City, Tara Sapansky. Really good to meet you, Tara.
Very good to meet you.
I'm so glad you weren't injured yesterday. You are the journalist who, well, first of all, give us a little bit of your background. You've got an organization called the Polish American Brotherhood, and actually people can visit your YouTube channel while it still remains up because we're all in danger of being canceled, but people can go to the Polish American Brotherhood and subscribe to your YouTube channel to see all of the videos yesterday. But in a nutshell, you are a journalist, you are a woman of color, you came to observe what was ostensibly a peaceful protest and you were attacked. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, my expectation was it was a peaceful protest. I was covering it for my channel, so I was live streaming, and I was just there to be a fly in the wall, covering it like just the raw footage that'd be out there. And
no agenda. You weren't wearing any Trump gear.
I wasn't wearing any Trump gear. I was trying to blend in, so I was in all black. I was covering my face.
Mask.
I was masked up, covering my face. And I saw them harassing some of the other journalists that were there, and so I went and stood next to them. And as they were harassing the journalists that were there, I said that we're not going to, we're here to cover the event. We're media, and so then they started demanding for me to turn off my live stream, and I said no.
Well, let's walk this way because we've got some noise happening here, and we're heading over to where it actually happened, right?
Yeah, we're.
And people who watch Crowdsource the Truth are going to recognize that this is Madison Square Park. We're blocks away from where I live. This was previously a really nice neighborhood in New York City where little kids hang out in this park and families and stuff. And you're right over here on the street. They seem very sensitive to recording their faces. Now, why do you think that is, Tara?
I don't think that they want them to have the media out there of what happens at their events, maybe the things that they are saying. And it was the first time I was attending this type of rally or protest when I had even seen it advertised, that they were saying that it was a food drive actually for the flyer that I had seen. And so the way it was being advertised, I think, is very contrary to what we were then witnessing there. Like when people were marching the streets, it looked very menacing.
Didn't they have shields and riot gear and chemical weapons and bats and bludgeoning weapons? Why do you suppose the NYPD is allowing an armed militia to roam the streets? That's not a peaceful protest.
No, it's something that could definitely erupt into a mob. There were a lot of people that were present, and so I was there just trying to live stream. And as you can see in the videos of when I refused to turn off my stream, they went after me. And I think that's a problem that we're having with the censorship of the media. And so I stood my ground. It's a public park. I have the right to be here. They have the right to be here by any means as well. And there's no expectation of because they know they're being filmed because the camera's right there, present.
There's no expectation of privacy in public. I would offer this opinion. I think they don't want their faces recorded because of what happened on Wednesday. There have been people scouring online videos of these anti-racist, anti-fascist protests, and they've been identifying some of the people who are marching the streets of New York City in black bloc, threatening, intimidating women of color. Obviously, you don't look white to me by the classic, if we want to put labels on things, okay? You don't look like a white supremacist or a Nazi. They called you a Nazi.
Yeah, it was.
What did you think of that?
I paused for a moment because when they came at me and they were calling me a Nazi, she's part of the Polish American Brotherhood, I was like, mentally, I froze, and I'm thinking, I don't have time to give you a history lesson, little boy. So yeah, mentally I'm like, all right, this is BS. And they're very quick to label anything that's of not even opposition, but of a different opinion, to be labeling it as a Nazi or to be labeling it as racist when it has nothing to do. And the response I have back to anybody who calls me a Nazi, because as a Trump supporter, it seems to be their favorite phrase to throw out there, is, do you even know what a Nazi is? And
of course they don't.
They don't. And then when I come across like Antifa or anti-fascists, which is actually, they use fascism, and I ask them, what is a fascist? They can't even define what a fascist is. So that's when you know
they think it's Donald Trump.
Yeah, they
But
think
they
it's
don't
Donald
realize
Trump.
that marching the streets, militarized gang, threatening and intimidating people, that is fascism.
It is, because it's the suppression of a contrary or a different idea, and when they're trying to suppress that, that's using fascism, because you're using violence to then silence people.
Well, frankly, it's terrorism as well. It's the very definition of terrorism, using violence or intimidation to achieve a political goal. It's funny that they think that. I want to show people, I took this video.
I don't understand why these police are not doing anything. This is their frickin' job. They are assaulting this woman in front of the police, literally directly in front of them.
Grab me!
They're not protect you anymore.
I don't understand.
You are not leaving. Why are you not leaving? Social attention. A Nazi. Then get out.
I don't understand why the police are not doing their job.
I can't believe that you stood there, to tell you the truth. I mean, that was incredibly brave. I've been in, that was super loud. Sorry, people, about the difference in audio there, but I know what it feels like to be surrounded by people. And I mean, at the risk of being sexist, I'm a man, you're a woman. Not that I could defend myself in a fight against 5 or 10 people, but you must have been terrified.
It's not sexist when it's just fact. So I'm not offended by the truth, though some people are.
Weren't you terrified?
Honestly, I don't even know what was going through my head. I was thinking, like, I was hoping not to get hurt, but I can't actually take a punch. So even though they were coming at me, they were hitting me. I didn't swing back.
I saw a dirty diaper almost rubbed on your face.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. They were spitting at me, that's actually a charge with the COVID environment. They were spitting at me. They were throwing liquids at me. And so my first concern when I saw the liquid actually was like, please don't be acid.
Acid, urine, anything.
Yeah, acid or urine. A guy hit me with a skateboard to my head. Yeah, and then when they knocked over my camera equipment, because they were trying to get the camera equipment out of my hands, it's actually kind of funny. My microphone fell over, and they're like, she's got a microphone!
What?
And I'm thinking, no, Sherlock?
Yeah.
And then they're like, she's got 2 cameras, because I had a GoPro on me, and I had the live stream going, and I had my Sony. So I actually had 3 cameras, guys, and I just responded back when they said, she's got 2 cameras. I go, the better to film you guys.
Right. I mean, they want to be out here in public doing stuff, but they don't want people to see them or see their faces. The other thing that I noticed was someone was shouting to you, and this was factual. There was a woman who said to you, the police can't protect you.
Yeah.
And you went up to the police. We were here. So sometimes run into these problems. It's interesting when they occur. I don't know if this is a random software error or if this is someone with some sort of tool that disrupts my system, but we're frequently getting that type of audio disruption.
They're watching.
Hopefully we get the sound back here. Okay, we've got it. So we're gonna walk over to where you were attacked.
Yeah.
And tell us, how did you ultimately leave? You were concerned that they would follow you, and I experienced that yesterday. They did follow me, and they really want you to do something that they can then beat you up and get a video that they cut in where you're getting beaten up.
I was conscious of that also, that because you know how things are going to be clipped out of context.
Right.
So the instance that I swing back, even if it's in self-defense, that's the part that's going to make it. So in which case, like, I could take a punch, and so I was taking the abuse and the assault that was going on, but I surprisingly, even to myself, I guess I kept my cool. People have been telling me.
Yes.
And so I didn't give them the opportunity to then use a clip that they would be using against me or using against conservatives that we're the violent ones.
Now, you were a Trump hater turned Trump supporter. Tell us about that. Did you vote for Trump in 2016?
I did not. I used to live here in New York. I left New York in 2017 to backpack and travel the world.
Wow.
And I went to 57 countries in the time period.
Wow.
And so I'm used to going to places by myself. So this was nothing unusual for me to be by myself attending this. I've actually backpacked through like no-go terror zones before, but that's a whole nother story.
You mean other than New York? No-go terror zones?
Yeah, I mean now I'm walking around a terror zone as we speak. So.
You are. I mean, listen, I don't want to be alarmist, but we're in a city where the NYPD have
Yeah.
flatly told you they will not protect you.
Yeah.
You went up to them while being attacked, and they told you 6 feet.
Yeah.
Step away from us.
That to me was the most shocking part, because in a sense, like I've been studying Antifa in the current environment. I've gone to Portland, I've gone to DC, and then also in the last several months following the events, I also went out to Arizona, and so I've been learning about their culture in a sense, as it is a cult, in my opinion, and with that, it's like I tried to blend in. I didn't want to draw any attention to me, and I don't know, it's nothing like I've ever seen before.
So that guy right there is wearing a Black Lives Matter mask, looked right at us as he walked by.
Yeah, it's sad they have to be suspicious, but you have to be on your guard.
A second here. That guy just turned around and looked at us again. So let's keep moving over this way, and let's see. So it was over here, 27th, or where was it?
It was right over here, actually.
Oh, really?
So if we walk over this way, this is where they were gathering.
On the grass?
Here on the grass, yes.
Oh, okay, wow.
They were here on the grass, and they had me pinned up against this fence over here, so I had no escape. So I was walking out this way, and then the confrontation started in the center when I was standing with the other journalists, and they were harassing them, and I just stood my ground, and I said, I'm not turning off my live stream. And so that's when they enshrouded me. First, I don't even know how many were at me. They covered they draped the BLM flag over my head. And so after they draped it and they started pushing me inside of it, they started putting like a jacket on me, and I can't shut my opinion up. So I was like, no, thank you, I don't need a jacket. And then somebody else like shoved a scarf in front of me. I was like, no, thank you, how kind of you, I don't need the scarf. So I sassed back a little bit, but I was trying to get out of the situation, and then they started hitting me with the umbrella into my head, and then that's when they were knocking at my equipment.
I mean,
The cops are literally present across the street over there. So
you're here in the park, and the cops are where? In the street?
So the cops are present across the street over there, and that's where I had run for them. So
let's walk over to where the cops were so people can see how far away they were from where you were being attacked. They're really not.
It was actually a series of two attacks that had occurred. The first one was when they were just coming at me because I was media. And then they were asking, then I didn't identify myself. I was looking to identify myself, and I don't have to identify myself.
Who are they? They're not the cops.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the first assault that had happened, and that's when they knocked over my camera equipment, and I bent over to pick it up. Somebody came at me and smashed an egg at my head. Then that had occurred here, and then I continued walking, and they had me pinned up against this fence over here, and then another person knocked my camera off, and so I'm self-funded, and so
all of this is assault.
Yeah,
you're self-funded, and they're damaging your equipment.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me just interrupt for a second. How can people support you? People who support the Polish American Brotherhood and the journalism that you're doing, do you have a GoFundMe or something?
I'm going to start a Patreon account, but I do have a Venmo, which is Po-Am Brotherhood. And so any donations, that would be fantastic. I'd greatly appreciate it to support like traveling. I'd go where all the action's at. I've spent a lot of money on equipment. And so that was my concern when they were coming at me. Ironically, was my equipment.
Not your own safety.
So, yeah, I guess I was a little weird about that.
What is the Polish American Brotherhood? I haven't heard of it before. Did you start it?
I did. So the Polish American Brotherhood, it's a project I had started with my dad. He wanted to be educating people in the U.S. about Polish culture and about Polish history, because the Polish have done a lot in America. They were part of the Revolutionary War. Tadeusz Kościuszko is a Polish Revolutionary War hero who fought alongside General George Washington. So it was the Polish people are the ones who brought the cavalry and the spirit into the American Revolution. And that's actually going back to a question you had asked me earlier about how I became a Trump supporter from a Trump hater, was because I'm a registered Democrat. When I was saying I voted for Bernie Sanders during the Florida primaries, I wasn't lying. I was a libtard just a couple months ago. And when Hillary lost the election in 2016, I was crying just like a snowflake, like everybody else here in New York City. And
not everybody else.
You're right. Not everybody else, but So I started paying attention to the news when George Floyd had been killed, and then the riots and violence had occurred. So I wasn't paying.
Oh no, those were peaceful protests.
Yes, you're correct. Those peaceful protests. And then so we all had a lot of time during quarantine to be sitting around at home, forced into our houses. So I started paying a lot of attention to the media. And then with that, I started going to original sources and then reading up on the policies that Trump had actually implemented. Because to my knowledge before that, I just knew him to be a racist. I just knew him to be a sexist. I just knew all the things that why I wouldn't like the guy, but not anything that he's actually done. And yeah, we got to be cautious
Fat
around
Boy
here.
and Slim over there look like all these guys walking around with masks and backpacks, I'm sorry, are now suspects.
Yeah,
we have to be really careful.
You don't know. They could be
They're
watching.
walking away. They could be watching on their phones right now.
They could be watching on their phones, and that's actually how they. So, getting to the second attack that they had, since I had been live streaming, that's when they were like, "Oh, that's terror from the Polish American Brotherhood," and that's when they came back and assaulted me the second time when I was already away and in this area.
Aren't they so brave? A group of men assaulting a woman by herself with no weapons, no defense.
Yeah, and they promote themselves to be a party of tolerance and to be uplifting women and POC, and they make everything racially based. But then they were screaming for my attack. They were screaming to knock her out. A group of men were screaming to knock me out. I'm female. I'm a POC, but they were still calling for me to be assaulted, and people were standing around okay with that, and a lot of people were participating in hitting me and assaulting me.
Have you filed any charges? Will the police do anything?
I don't think they will. Honestly,
I don't think they will either.
I mean, they had me literally in front of them 2 feet away. So, and as the crime scene was happening, and they didn't even help me. Fortunately, there was a guy who was passing by, and he saw he saw me being assaulted, and he jumped in. And he was on his way to breakfast, and he was the only person that was there that jumped in and was shielding me. And because then they started pouring more liquid at me, silly stringing me, which at first, because I was doing an interview and somebody came from behind, and then I heard somebody yell "watch out." I turn around and I just see a can coming towards my face. So my first thought was all right, this is my first experience to be maced. And so I screamed, and then I ran behind another guy, and it was silly string. But then so he came at me, silly stringing me, and then they pinned me up against, there was another, where did they have me? That one, the dog park. Over here. So they pinned me up against this fence over here again, so I was cornered. And then when the man was shielding me from one side, I almost feel like it was to distract. But so this is the dog park over here, and they had me against here. And then one man was shielding me. The other guy was silly stringing me from this side, so my body was this way trying to deflect. And another guy came in from the side with a skateboard and then whacked me.
Wow. See, that's the thing. People say, oh, silly string, not a big deal. But it's a setup to distract you from whatever is coming next. I saw a video of a bunch of Antifa guys somewhere in California, and they were coming at some Trump supporters, and what happened was, it was 2 guys squaring off, and then 3 black bloc wearing Antifa people came in front with their hands up stop, stop, don't fight, don't fight. And then from behind those 3, a 4th guy came with bear spray or something and sprayed the crap out of the Trump guy, and then they all started beating him up.
Yeah, so I learned that it's part of they do a little bit of tactical training, that they have somebody distract from the front as somebody comes from the back, and so that's what actually happened to me. The guy was coming at me with silly string, which of course is not going to cause any permanent kind of damage.
Distraction.
But that was the distraction, and then the other guy swung at me with the skateboard, and then so I got mad when he.
You could be killed by that. Somebody hits you in the side of the head with a skateboard. You hit the street and get a brain bleed.
Yeah. So
what are these guys thinking? I mean, why? That is serious assault.
Yeah. So there's footage of him hitting me with a skateboard, and I was watching the footage this morning of it, and my reaction to that, I just got mad, and so I went after him, and that was the only guy I was about to actually deck.
Wow.
Because it did make me mad to be hit in the head with a skateboard.
Wow. Wow.
And then so, but from that point, that's when I first saw the police, because now we were in position that we were over here in this area, and I saw the police over there, so I ran down in this direction.
And it's a far distance here to get
Yeah.
around the fence and get out of the park and over to where
And
the police
they were following me,
Right.
and they were yelling.
Which, by the way, that's intimidating in and of itself.
Yeah.
They're following you because it's like if they want you to leave and you're walking away,
Yeah.
how the hell are you going to give these people what they want?
Yeah. So the another ironic thing that happened was I was live streaming me running at this point towards the police.
Right.
YouTube cut off the part that I'm running away from the mob. It was a 13-minute video originally that people had told me, and then by the time it posted, it was 6 minutes.
Does your phone record the stuff, or if it doesn't go live, you don't get it?
Somebody else told me that they were able to get the footage because at this point when I'm live streaming, somebody else was live streaming mine. And so they got in touch with me to let me know that I had the footage.
Great. That's great.
And so, but that's interesting how YouTube specifically chose that segment when I'm running away from a BLM Antifa mob.
Right. Well, I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And because I'm saying I'm walking away from you, get away from me, get away from me.
But they won't.
Some profanities in there say that away from me, and I'm running. Over here is where it happens with the police were like in this area on the street.
Yeah.
And then, so I ran up to them. I'm all disheveled, egg in my hair, wet from because they threw all the water at me. And I'm yelling at the police, like, I need help. These guys, like, they hit me, they punched me in the head, they threw an egg at my...
And they said stand 6 feet away from us, the cops.
They pointed, two of them that were standing there. The image, like, I was looking at this morning. This part makes me angry, was when the cops pointed down and pushed and pointed away, saying 6 feet away. And I'm like, I need help, but I'm a law-abiding citizen.
They turned their backs on you. I saw it.
So when they gave me an order 6 feet away, I stood back right away and I said, I need your help, and I pointed at the mob that was coming after me. And at that moment, they were on bicycles. They rode their bicycles further away from me. And I'm like, I'm really going to be on my own with this, aren't I? So I started weaving in between the cops and asking them, please protect me from these people. And so that's you. Then the girl with the diaper, she starts putting a dirty diaper like in my face.
Saw it.
Literally, the cop is 2 feet away from me. I'm trying to stand in the middle of the cops looking for some protection, and then they all started. They came back around, and the cops literally stood there and did nothing.
I gotta tell you, Tara, it's just dangerous. People who don't realize I saw another live stream this morning where a guy was talking about Portland, and he said downtown Portland is now Tombstone, Arizona.
Yeah.
Lawless, Wild West.
Yeah.
You can't rely on the police. Here in New York City, we're not legally allowed to own guns, so the police won't protect us, but they will allow militarized gangs to march in the street, intimidate defenseless young women, and literally tell you to get away when you ask for help. So I don't understand what's going on, Commissioner Shea, but if you're paying people to not protect us, then we should defund those police. So I don't know what the solution is, Tara. What else can you share with us about this? Or were you born in Poland, or?
I'm actually a Polish citizen. So I'm a dual citizen, and I'm eligible also for my Filipino citizen, which is my mother's side. So I'm mestiza, which is half Polish and half Filipino, Polopino.
Wow.
And so my family was very good with taking me to Poland and the Philippines, so I'm very in touch with my cultural roots. And I used to compete in the Miss America system, and then
I saw that.
and so I used to promote cultural diversity, which is what they're supposedly doing.
Right.
But they clearly that's not exactly what they're doing. Nor were they collecting food during their food drive yesterday.
I think what they do is they
something.
collect cans and then they use the cans as weapons.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. So actually how I started the channel, my father wanted to be promoting Polish culture in America and what Polish American citizens have been doing. And so I started doing 10 facts about Poland. I made a video about Tadeusz Kościuszko, the Polish revolutionary war hero. And then literally 2-3 days after that, his statue in DC was vandalized.
What?
And so knowing his history, knowing that he fought for also the abolition of slavery, his entire estate went to freeing slaves upon his death. And so
I saw that when they destroyed that guy's
yeah,
statue.
yeah. And so my dad was very saddened by that, and I'm like, wow, this is a sham of a movement. And he saw my dad's a Soviet refugee, and so when he saw,
so you guys know what socialism is all
yeah,
about.
we know about
family
communism.
has directly had this in your immediate history. That guy just eyeballed us. Did you see that?
Yeah. But yeah, so my dad's a Soviet refugee, and then he saw a picture of America when he was 13, and he's like, I want to go there because they look like they have food.
Oh.
And so he made his way to America. He got into Italy, he got political asylum, and came to the USA. So my dad, is a political asylum refugee here in America. So being first generation American, we have a different, I feel like a different mentality when it
More
comes to
respect for the freedom that
Yeah.
you know what you've escaped.
Yeah.
So what does your father say about what's going on now in America? Is he still alive?
Yes. So when he saw the statues being toppled, he's like, oh, this is Leningrad all over again. And then when he saw the Kosciuszko statue vandalized, he's like, nobody will stand up for Kosciuszko. And so I said to him, I will. So I posted just on my Facebook, on my social media, I posted saying the history of today is Kosciuszko and condemning the riots and the violence, and saying that if you're going to be using violence and vandalism to be promoting a cause, it's going to be associated with that.
Right.
And so I said, I said, when I see the letters BLM, I see KKK, and I gave it and I said it's the equivalent of a swastika. Now, when I said that, it was with the thinking that people would understand how the swastika was perverted by Hitler
Hinduism
from Hinduism
to
because
Nazism.
exactly. So I was using that as an analogy, not from a metaphoric meaning, and so but people were just completely outraged that I should use the any such analogy that would belong in the same sentence. But actually, I was just giving practical advice, common sense, which is kind of lacking these days. And then with that, I was completely blasted on social media. And then any opinion I vocalized after that, it was always met with such disdain. People were like, you value a statue more than human life.
Wow.
And just like as if I said for people to die, it was just completely ostracizing. And so that's when I started doing my research and realized there's something really wrong with the way that people are reacting and the way they are triggering, as opposed to having conversation about things, any kind of civil discourse that just became non-existent this past summer. And so with that, after 3 months of doing research, I raised my flag and I said, I'm a Trump supporter. And then I pivoted my channel from covering history to covering history in the making.
Yeah.
Started spending time in Washington, D.C., meeting people and interviewing them. And the people that I heard about in the media, I started meeting them in person and realizing how it's such a difference from the way things are villainized in the mainstream media versus what's actually happening in life. So these events that would be happening, I see them in the media, but I was physically there and witnessed them. So I started covering them in my channel.
Like the Capitol building.
Yes.
So you were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tell us what your experience was last Wednesday. What did you see? What do you think was going on there?
It was swarms of people that were present in the Capitol, and to have that many individuals, Americans, to be in support of President Trump, to be there on a weekday, to be stopping the steal, it was a fantastic sight. And I didn't go inside of the Capitol when it was stormed. My approach would have been, I think we should have we got to get smart as conservatives. We should have camped out there, set up our own autonomous zone, refused to leave for days.
Just in the lawn,
yeah,
like they
in the
did
lawn.
at City Hall.
In
And
the
you know
lawn.
what? Somebody was in a live chat that I did the other day. You were on InfoWars last night. Somebody was in a live chat I did the other day, said that Alex Jones said or did something. I don't know if that person in the live chat was correct. I saw an extensive video on InfoWars where Alex Jones showed video of him specifically telling people, don't be violent. And I've been to so many Trump rallies where people are aware of this. They say, don't fight with the cops, don't break anything.
Absolutely.
Show them that we're not like the left, we're not like Antifa.
We're not going to use their tactics.
Right. And listen, Tara, when you look at the mob charging that building, breaking the windows, scaling the walls, skinny guys in their 20s.
I was suspicious.
That doesn't look like the Trump events and the Trump supporters that I've seen around the country for the past 4 years. It looks exactly like what we've been seeing all last summer.
Yeah. I was suspicious, and I feel like because we also saw the footage of how like the police had opened up the barriers,
Right.
and so when they opened up the barriers, because some of the people that were inside of the Capitol, they were families. They were there with their like 16-year-old, and they were saying like, oh, we're giving a civics lesson. They were staying in line, like the footage of them walking in line, the velvet
Ropes there,
ropes. They stayed in line. That's not a form of like storming.
Right.
And then so, and so. So the images that then made it onto the mainstream media aren't actually showing like the peacefulness of it. And I gotta hand it to the conservative like comedy of it when you have, because some of the scenes, you gotta admit, they were very meme worthy and very hilarious. And that's the thing, when I started learning about like being conservative culture and realizing where my values actually aligned, that I had actually been a lot more conservative than I realized. And then I started paying attention to conservative media. It's hilarious. And so the comedy that is there, and I saw that, like, you're calling these people terrorists, and they're walking with, like, the gavel or phoning from Pelosi's office, like, hey, President, hey, Mr. President,
I think it was
love you.
a terrible idea to steal items from there for sure.
Yeah.
But I think what I saw.
It's not what we're going for.
No. What I saw was, look, in any group, there's going to be smart, independent thinkers who are discerning, and then there's going to be people who just follow the crowd.
Yeah, and I believe that's what happened. There were a lot of people that followed in the crowd, and you have, when you have well-intentioned individuals that are there, and the police opened up the barricades, and you see them ushering them in.
I don't understand why they did that, though. They
ushered
should have known that there was a huge crowd there. I mean, I think the U.S. Capitol Police were woefully unprepared, probably extremely badly trained.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's terrible that any of their officers were injured or killed. We don't want that. But at the same time, that organization needs to take responsibility for itself.
Right.
And, I dealt with them maybe 2017 or 18, giving them I brought a witness to their police station where she gave them very important evidence that they immediately turned over to the defendant's attorney. So, I mean, they're either incompetent completely or working for someone other than protecting the Capitol.
Yeah,
I don't know what the deal is there.
I mean, police are still agents of the state, and there's going to be somebody who's going to be their orders. So even what was happening to me yesterday, I believe that somebody must have given them the orders not to be helping.
Do you think that somebody's name is Bill de Blasio by any chance?
Wilhelm Warren?
Wilhelm Jr.? Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's his name.
I mean, we're joking about it a little bit, but it's not funny. I mean, we are in a really dangerous situation. If someone were to come and attack us right now, there's obviously no police presence in the park. Even if there were a line of police here, they told you yesterday. They showed you while Antifa told you. So not only do you know,
stay 6 feet away, and
militant gangs know that the police will not protect you, and they basically.
I felt very betrayed because I've been promoting "Back the Blue" for the past several months, saying the phrase "Back the Blue" and in support of law and order, and so being in support of them vocally, and then at the moment that I was begging for help.
You needed help.
I needed help, and they said no and told me to get away, and then they rode away.
It's unbelievable. I think what they should do is they don't need to fire them all. They could just enlist them into the medical examiner's office and give them all coroner's uniforms, because what they're waiting to do is show up after you're dead and remove your body.
Yeah.
Seems to be what they want to do.
Exactly.
Not you. I mean, I'm just saying.
No.
Because I've been assaulted. I've asked them for help. NYPD has failed me every single time I've asked them for help. So I'm not going to do anything to harm the NYPD, but they should be defunded if they're not going to do anything to help us.
I think similarly to what we experienced at the Capitol, like I feel it was set up to capture those certain images and to give reason for, they're trying to deplatform Parler, they're trying to deplatform a lot of conservative voices.
The president. We have an unelected 40-year-old technocratic schmuck running a company who has silenced the president of the United States. That cannot stand. That sends a message to the world that Twitter has more power, not than Donald Trump, than the office of the President of the United States. That to me is so outrageous.
Absolutely. And they were looking for this excuse, and they got it. They got it, unfortunately. So that's why we gotta be smart as conservatives, and I don't know what that solution is, but I'm definitely going to be turning on my mind and talking as much, like they're trying to silence our communication channels to
Right.
each other, but the only way we're going to come up with those ideas is by putting everything together. So we still need to continue to communicate and brainstorm and put a plan in place and move forward with that.
Yeah.
Because we're
So-
not going to stop the fight.
Right, and that's going to be a peaceful, civil fight. We're not going to storm any government buildings. or
It's
beat
not
up
our
the
ways.
cops. No. So what's the best way for people to stay in touch with you if some of these things start to go down?
You can reach me at my handle is POAM Brotherhood, POAM Brotherhood, and so that's my handle on all my social medias. Please check out my YouTube channel, Polish American Brotherhood, and that's how you can reach me.
Here's the Polish American Brotherhood channel once again, and let everybody know if they want to support your journalism, what the best way to do that is.
My if you're able to make a direct donation, my Venmo is POAM Brotherhood.
Right. I have to say, Tara, you're incredibly brave. You're obviously incredibly smart, and I hope you stay safe and
Thank
stay
you.
well. I'm really glad to have met you. Is there anything else we want to talk about?
Just thank you for the opportunity of being on your platform and to get my story out there. And it was a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for meeting me, and I think we should probably clear out of here. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back later tonight with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty. Don't forget, you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Please get onto those platforms, because as long as they keep me there, I can feed videos into it from all kinds of different platforms. I'm still working on the Crowdsource the Truth video server, and for people who want to sponsor the Crowdsource the Truth counter lawfare fund, that's also becoming increasingly important. You know, people who are familiar with George's brother, he's just launched a campaign to attempt to sue me in California, and he doesn't seem to be giving up. So people can go to crowdsourcethetruth.com. You can check out the Counter Lawfare Fund, and if you want to help me show social engineers that they can't just overwhelm people with frivolous lawsuits, you can pick a sponsorship level, and there's all kinds of different gifts and premium annual subscriptions that people can get there, and you're going to help me send a message to vexatious litigants and the Emmys that they're not going to be able to do this. They're not going to be able to get away with this. Things are really getting nuts.
Yeah, they are.
Tara,
Stay safe.
Thanks for joining me, and stay safe, everybody. I'll see you later.